So, last time I was telling you about how my Charlie left me for Bobby Blake the butcher, and how Maureen was an utter rock, even to the extent of allowing me to vomit copiously into her IKEA mop bucket, which was her pride and joy. I slept at theirs that night. Well, I say slept. Apparently I spent a very restless night. At one point, Maureen's Derek, on one of his nocturnal prostate-related constitutionals, distinctly heard me shouting downstairs, "I'll lamb shank you, you bastard!" Concerned that I might have encountered an intruder, Derek tiptoed gently downstairs, only to find me beating hell out of the sofa cushions with a rolling pin which I must have fetched from the kitchen drawer in my sleep. He spoke my name, and I immediately put the rolling pin down, turned to him, murmured, "Beurre bourguignon." How very pretentious. Fell backwards onto the sofa and started snoring. Anyway, the next morning I really didn't feel too bad, considering that I had drunk half a bottle of cooking sherry on my own, followed by several gin and tonics with Maureen. We had a full cooked breakfast. I gave Derek my sausage. Maureen was very worried about me, bless her, which was sweet, but I told her not to fret. After all, I reassured her, I've come through many calamities in life on my own and come out the other end fine. I reminded her about the time my cousin Sally had booked a family holiday for 19 of us in a lovely little hotel in Rill, only to find on arriving that I had inadvertently been roomed in a bed and breakfast a quarter of a mile away from the rest of them, right next to the railway station. The windows rattled every time a train went past, and I was put off my breakfast every day by a small group of commuters idly watching me eat my boiled eggs as they waited on the platform for the 8:15 to Llandudno. I felt very exposed, nibbling my soldiers in full view of the general public. It quite took the edge off my appetite. Anyway, I digress. So, as you can imagine, I did find it quite difficult at first without Charlie, although I took some comfort from the fact that all my friends immediately stopped frequenting Bobby Blake's shop. Jean Marshall even went so far as to inform him that she would never eat a sausage again without thinking of what he and Charlie had done to me, which I know was intended to be supportive, but I rather wish she'd kept her comments to herself. Likewise Mother, with her ribald remarks about Toad in the hole. I didn't mention it to Maureen. She has an unfortunate history of getting overstimulated by random foodstuffs. I once had to drag her out of Tesco's after she began laughing at a particularly imaginative display of Brussels and carrots one Christmas. One evening, a few days after Charlie had dropped his bombshell, or rather Maureen had dropped it for him, Maureen and I were sitting at mine drinking lapsang souchong from gravy boats, which were the only items of crockery to have survived my fit of rage earlier that morning. We were just discussing whether to drink from the spout, which seemed somehow improper, or to drink from the side and risk spilling hot tea down our cleavages, when there was a knock at the door. I jumped. Maureen's eyes widened, and she hissed, "Are you expecting anybody?" "No," I whispered back. We sat like rabbits in the headlights, staring at each other. I don't quite know what I was expecting, but in my heightened state of anxiety, a knock at the door could only presage further bad news. Another knock came. Maureen got to her feet and went into the hall, where I heard her open the door and speak in her most flirtatious tones. "Oh, do come in," she said, graciously inviting a stranger into my house. She came back into the room, followed by a vaguely familiar figure, holding a large bottle. "It's Bobby Blake's big brother, Billy. He's brought a bottle of bubbly," she declaimed, preening herself far too much for a married woman. I had never really spoken to Billy. He had been several years above us at school and had a reputation for womanising. I felt rather uneasy that he should have appeared when I was in such a vulnerable state. On the other hand, you can only take so much lapsang souchong served in gravy boats. I held out my hand and said, That's very kind of you. Won't you stay and help us drink it? I then remembered that I'd thrown all the glasses onto the patio that morning, smashing them and frightening the squirrels off the bird table. So, after he'd opened the bottle, we had to take it in turns to swig from it, me hoping all the while that he hadn't contracted herpes from one of his many conquests. It wasn't long before it went to Maureen's head, and she began giggling inanely at every remark Billy made. At one point he said, "Butcher! Butcher than what? He's camper than me. He'd have been better off selling tents." Personally, I thought that was in bad taste, as well as not being particularly funny, but Maureen shrieked even louder than she had in Tesco's when she saw the Christmas vegetables on display. I quite feared for her underwear. However, to give him his due, Billy did go on to be very supportive of me at that difficult time. He seemed genuinely to feel responsible for helping me through it. Maureen suspects that he felt guilty because he used to dress Bobby in their sister's clothes when he was little. He showed us the photographs. 2 days after his first visit, Billy popped round with some more champagne and some glasses from which to drink it. Thus began my champagne habit. I never touch it before 5, unless it's a special occasion. I'd hate to give people the impression that I am somehow dependent on alcoholic beverages in order to deal with the admittedly somewhat traumatic memories of my past. Anyway, I'd best be getting on. The dishwasher doesn't load itself. I'll see you all again soon.